So we're finally here, folks. We are at the penultimate episode of Loki season 1. Probably going to be the only season. So like I said last week, if just in case you didn't know, the way I'm going to be doing this is a little bit different. I won't be doing a traditional synopsis. I'm basically going to be giving kind of synopsis that go along with the notes that I have. It makes the editing easier. This is how these are going to get done. These are week to week. Come on. Well, this one hasn't been week to week, but I've been watching them week to week. But yeah, hopefully this will be in time. So let's just get into it. I think the opening shot of this episode is pretty cool. I like the fact that the TV shows are getting to experiment a little bit more with their visual style and not be held to the Marvel sort of formula quite as hard. We get to fly through of basically this void space that Loki has gone to instead of dying. And yeah, we see this giant cloud thing. And I don't know about y'all, but it looked like the tiger monster from Aladdin. Is Disney ripping itself off? Disney. And then we end up going back to the TVA where basically Sylvie last episode decided not to kill Ramona because she basically was like, hey, you're going to tell me what's going on here because these Time Lords aren't real. What's happening? And I just have to say, I wouldn't trust a damn thing Ramona says. I think the whole show we've seen that she just lies all the time. So I wouldn't believe anything she says. You might as well just kill her, to be totally honest. And also, they start kind of exploring the idea of time travel because they're basically revealed that Loki is at this place at the end of time because matter can't just be destroyed quite right away. So it's kind of like a temporary holding place. But I just want to say this. If time travel ever becomes real, or if time travel is already real, it's going to be a very dangerous thing for us as humanity to have. It just seems like there's so many things that could go wrong with changing timelines and going back in the past and changing things that I'm sure as humanity, that probably would be our great undoing without us even realizing it. But then we go back to the void and Loki wakes up. And like I said last episode, he wakes up surrounded by a bunch of different Lokis. And we get revealed to basically like a kid Loki. I'm gonna call him Black Loki and Old School Loki. And Old School Loki, I have to say, is the most striking among them. And I think part of it is the fact that his costume more closely reflects the Loki from the comics. And even though his costume is goofy, I actually think it's striking and memorable. It makes it where at a distance, I can read that is him very easily. And I actually kind of hope Marvel sort of embraces the goofy costumes a little bit more because even though they're goofy a little bit, they are more iconic and they stand out more and they give the characters more physical character without the characters necessarily having to do anything. But yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to that. It gets revealed because Loki's asking all their other Lokis like, okay, what did you do to basically get pruned? And Kid Loki reveals that the reason he got pruned is because he killed the Thor in his timeline, which lets you know, man, this kid is a badass. He's not playing. He got to accomplish something our Loki has never ever done, but I'm sure has wanted to do. So basically we get taken to the Loki's hideout and we get this shot where we pan through the ground and we see a Thor hammer and some kind of frog creature in a glass bottle. I don't know. Does anybody know what that is? If you do, leave it in the comments down below. I'd much appreciate that. And then we go back to the TVA and basically Sylvie's trying to figure out how to get to Loki at this end of time space. And Ramona, being the liar that she is, to stall for time, basically says they have an aircraft that can take them to the end of time. But it turns out that computer AIs aren't so great at lying. So Sylvie spots it right away. And then basically we go back to the void with all the other Lokis. And they're basically just filling in Loki on where they come from, what they've been up to. And I love that they keep cutting back to this Alligator Loki that doesn't speak English. Alligator Loki is pretty sweet and pretty awesome. But I would say the big standout in this kind of sequence is the fact that old Loki gives his storyline. And basically it shows that he was very similar to I Loki, except in the crucial moment where our Loki gets killed by Thor, this Loki did not. He ran away and it gets kind of revealed that he ran away to a planet to live secluded, but the reason he ended up getting caught was he got very lonely. He missed his brother, he missed his family. So as soon as he made any attempt to try to get back to them, the TVA came in and snatched him up. And I would say this Loki is pretty interesting. I don't know if it is because he is an older Loki. He seems a lot more stripped of the sort of arrogance and coldness and the sort of aloofness that our Loki tends to have and other Lokis that we've witnessed, which is pretty interesting. I think it's a pretty interesting thing. I couldn't help it when the Lokis were all hanging out with each other. I couldn't help but think of the the Sinister Six Boys meme. Let me put a picture up right here. Is it just me? Is it just me? Is it just me? But yeah, while they're down this hangout, our Loki basically decides, man, he's not just gonna sit here, because they basically are like, hey, with that giant cloud monster from Aladdin flying around, that's the thing that'll actually kill you. You just gotta run and hide. But our Loki's like, nah. And he uses what I like to call Conan logic. This line has stuck out in my head ever since my father, who's a huge Conan comic fan, basically said it to me, where he basically says, like, even though this thing is a giant cloud monster thing, the fact that you said it's alive and can interact with me means that it has a heart and it lives, which means it can die. It's a very Conan logic, but I mean, I guess I get it. I guess I kind of get it. And we basically have it where Sylvie has decided to prune herself because she figures, okay, whatever happened to Loki, I need to get to where he is. And the fastest way to do it is basically die the way he died. So she does it. She ends up in the void, and the big giant smoke cloud monster's chasing her. And who comes to her rescue? Our boy Mobius shows up in the Pizza Planet mobile. I don't know if it's actually Pizza Planet. It looks like the Pizza Planet mobile. Shows up and save her. And I will say this is like a funny thing that I've said to my friends. I first came up with this observation when I watched the movie Legion, where basically humanity, the angels have decided that humanity's unworthy. They send a bunch of angels down to kill us. And what do we kill these celestial inhuman beings with? A machine gun. I just think it's really funny when you have something that's like supernatural or cosmic, something that's like outside of our human understanding, but can still be killed or taken down with like something that's like so primitive as like a machine gun or something like that. I just think it's funny that our like a car, like a 4-door sedan, can outrun this like supernatural creature. I just think that's like a really funny thing that humans do that we like put into our stories. Just thought I would say that. But yeah, you basically go back to the Lokis again, and our Loki, as he's about to leave, gets confronted with another version of him, which turns out to be what I'm gonna basically call Evil President Loki. And I know that our Loki has been going on his character arc and becoming a better person and stuff, but I'm not gonna lie, watching Evil President Loki, there's another part of me that kind of wish the show made it where we were following like that guy. Just a little bit, because he seems to really relish in being quite evil. But a big fight breaks out between all the Lokis because they're all double crossing each other. And we basically get this moment where our Lokis escape, and they basically are going to go with our Loki's plan. And so they basically figured out that this creature likes to eat anything that enters that void. So a giant Navy ship crashes into the void, and we see this giant smoke monster basically murder everybody on it. But I felt so bad for the sailors, because imagine you get pruned, you get put into this void, you don't know what's happening, and then all of a sudden you're fighting this Lovecraftian creature, and it's the last thing you see, this terrifying, inhuman, cosmic horror right before you just die. I just thought that was pretty messed up. I hope I don't die like that. I hope I never die like that. But yeah, can we also just get into the fact that, like, can Alligator Loki be the new Baby Yoda? Can we get that? Come on. I know if you made a plush doll alligator with some Loki horns, you telling me that wouldn't be a hit? Come on. Come on, Marvel, that's free money. I mean, maybe they're already doing that. Maybe I'm behind the game. You basically have it where our Loki, Sylvie, and Mobius find the other Lokis right as they're about to go in and act their plan to kill this giant Aladdin smoke cloud creature monster. And then we go back to the TVA where Ramona is trying to figure out where Sylvie and them went. But yeah, I have a hard time reading Ramona, like, because she lies so much that it's like, is she really lost on what's going on, or is there something that she is protecting? When she's trying to figure this out, she basically goes to visit Ruby, who they've locked down because she betrayed them in the last episode. And I'm not gonna lie, the shot of coming up to Ruby in this red room, I don't know about y'all, but that looks like a pretty fuego mixtape cover to me. Am I wrong? I'm just saying. But yeah, and we end up going back to Loki and them and Mobius is hanging out with some of the other Lokis while they're trying to figure this plan out. And I like the fact that Mobius he just casually says these really sweet but like hopeful, like simple truths. He basically just says to the Lokis, because they basically say, like, okay, when you get back to the TVA, like, what are you gonna do? Because you know that's a lie. And he's like, I'm gonna burn the place down to the ground. And they're like, wow, this thing that you've stood for probably hundreds of thousands of years, you're just gonna betray them just like that? And he was like, hey man, it's never too late to change. And you can tell the old Loki takes that to heart. It definitely hits him particularly, because he probably has been a certain way or thought he was a certain way, and that's the only reason he survived. But I like that moment. I thought it was really It was really cool. And then we cut to Loki and Sylvie outside as they're this is kind of like the downtime before they go and enact this dangerous plan. And I would say this scene is very awkward because you kind of know there's a romantic tension between them, but it's also sweet. And I'm just saying, Marvel, are these Lokis gonna hook up? I'm just curious. Are you gonna let it get that weird? But I also want to say Loki's been conjuring various things throughout this season, and he conjures his blanket. And Tom Hiddleston's like hand motions, I'm playing a clip of it right here. They're so smooth. They're so JB smooth. Okay, just let me play it one more time. They basically have it where they're about to go do their plan. Old Loki and Kid Loki decide to leave because they don't want to die. They say this place is their home, but Kid Loki gives our Loki his sword, and I couldn't help but wonder, is that the sword he murdered his Thor with? I'm just curious. I don't know. Did he do that? Did he do that? Is that the sword he's giving Loki? But yeah, they decide to leave, and then Mobius is given the TemPad, and he's about to leave. And right before he leaves, we get that sweet bro hug between Loki and Mobius. They're really bros, man. It's so sweet, man. It's okay for dudes to hug. It's all right. That's just showing that love. But I thought that was a really sweet moment, and I just wanted to share it with y'all. But they basically decide to go enact their plan to kill this giant cloud monster, and I think it's a pretty bad plan because this thing is like not human. It's a big cloud monster. Your plan seems pretty, I don't know, loose. So yeah, they basically figure out that they need to distract it to give Sylvie time. So our Loki runs off with the sword to distract the monster, and turns out the sword is a freaking flame sword. We don't know that until this moment, which just further proves the point to me that Kid Loki is probably the most badass Loki. There's probably a reason why he killed his Thor, right? I mean, that sword is pretty cool to me. But the distraction is not enough, and it seems like all hope is lost before we see that old Loki has come back and is conjuring up a giant city to distract this monster to give the other Lokis time. First of all, I want to say old Loki is freaking powerful because we've never seen our Loki do anything on that scale. But also too, there was this sad detail that I noticed, which is the fact that the city he is conjuring up is Asgard. So this is going to be, so for his final like triumphant act of defiance and self-sacrifice, basically, he conjured up his own home for one last time so he could see it before he basically dies. And I just thought that was like a sweet little detail. But it ends up working. Sylvie and our Loki are given enough time to enchant this cloud monster that kills old Loki, and the cloud monster starts to part, and we see this giant house just sort of floating in this cosmic void, and that's kind of basically the end of the episode. So my question is, what powerful being that controls time itself lives in that house? Should our heroes really run into that? Because I can't imagine if they run into that they have any way of beating this thing. So I don't know. I mean, I have a theory of who could live in that house. So yeah, Loki episode 5, the penultimate episode of Loki season 1. I have to say, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think this has a lot of adventure. It has a lot of fun. We get to see all these different Lokis. I wish we spent more time with them, and I wish the show had a little bit more of these elements going on. But I'm glad that we finally got it. But yeah, what do you guys think is going to happen this last episode? I've heard some rumors of who might be in this last episode, but I don't want to spoil it. So yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comment down below, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.